Welcome, viewers, to our 8th weekly Classic Hearthstone deck spotlight. Today we'll be talking about a very strong deck that has defined the meta since the earliest days of Hearthstone. That's right, we're going to be talking about the infamous Combo Druid today. My name's Opposition, I'll be your host this morning. Our guest today is a pedigreed rank 1 ladder player, and also our current reigning EU champion, HDA. Welcome to the show, good to have you here.
Oh, that's quite the introduction. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Happy to be here.
It's great to have you. So I like to start off with a little bit of personal questions to help the fans get to know you a little bit better. Today, my question is, you finished rank 1 4 times already. You're on track for a 5th rank 1 finish this season. You also recently won the Classic Hearthstone EU tournament, which had some really strong competitors in it. So I'm curious, what do you think it is about your competitive approach to Hearthstone that makes you so successful?
I mean, honestly, spend your mana, like you'll win games. No, but no, but honestly, I think people can do whatever they want, right? But I thought people need to play to win more. Like definitely, you see people they autopilot, like they run for Senjin Savage or, and it's like they can be super behind, and it's like, bro. Like, you gotta make a strong play if you wanna win this game, And they're like, got a healing touch my face, but whatever, this doesn't work.
Yeah, sometimes there's this concept of lose more slowly rather than win the game, where you take these kind of passive approaches and you
Like
don't play
100%.
to your outs. Yeah,
Yeah, you'll see him play the Zoolock, Hope Wait the Doom God, ridiculous shit like that.
yeah,
And sometimes you gotta send it, right?
yeah, exactly. There's a point at which I think with every deck, especially the minion based decks, where we kind of do have to start making a choice to go face with our minions sometimes and just kind of pull the trigger and say, yes, there's a chance that I die next turn, or there's a chance that my opponent retakes the board. But if I don't attack face, at some point I'm just going to get overrun, right? I think that's a fairly common thing with a lot of classic decks is that we do have to be assertive at some point when we're playing these. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about this very popular Combo Druid deck. Now, Combo Druid is a mid-range archetype that plays a lot of these high-value minions, big minions, a lot of them with taunt. It plays efficient removal, albeit not that much removal, and has this combo finisher with Force of Nature Savage Roar that can take an opponent from 14 health with no taunts and kill them right away. When we start to add Innervates and other minions on the board into that picture, we can do 30 damage in a turn very easily with just a couple minions on the board. So a very, very powerful end game there that kind of puts our opponent on the clock, and a mid game where we're likely going to be outpacing our opponents as far as our big minions are concerned. And though this deck does have some weaknesses, it tends to be very well rounded, and with proper draws, we can have great chances against pretty much any of the top archetypes, including Rogue and even the decks that you might say counter this. So HC, I'm kind of curious, what got you interested in playing Combo Druid in the first place?
I mean, honestly, I usually play whatever thinks the best. I try hard in video games. And Druid, it's pretty broken, right? But also, I like to choose one effects, man. You got through the claw, you can go charge a taunt. Wrath, you can go draw or deal 3 damage. Lore, you can go heal or draw. I think the choose one effects very unique, and I quite enjoy them actually. I think they're very interesting, which is also part of the reason. But mainly, I like climbing and on a climb, gotta be on the druids.
Yeah, it feels like
And
it's a class that if you're going to play Classic, I wouldn't say it's necessarily essential to learn, but I think players will do themselves a disservice if they don't play, if they don't have competency with this deck, or at least understand what its game plan is.
yeah, I also used to play Druid Standard, but then the question comes why do you use to play Druid Standard? I don't really know.
I used to play a lot of Druid and Standard as well. And I can remember the days of Fandral Staghelm. Did you ever play with that card in your deck? The one where you
Oh, the one that
choose one
your
effects, do
combo
both.
Drake. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, I remember that one.
yeah, that was a fun card. Um, I think that the druid has uh, this mechanic that other decks don't, that no other class does in Hearthstone, which is that choose one that you were talking about. And I think that's part of what makes this deck so flexible when we're playing it, is that we have options a lot of times, and there's a plus side and a minus side to that, right? In the pros column, if we're a competent player, can know when to heal ourselves or when to draw with Ancient of Lore, for example. Um, and but it does also open us up, if we're not as skilled of a player, to be making some choices about like when to, cycle a card with Wrath when we really need one, or deal 3 damage. So there are a lot of choices with this deck, right? And that kind of intimates that it's going to have a higher skill cap sometimes than other decks.
Nah, man, this deck's easy. Come on.
Maybe for you. You'll teach the rest of us today how this deck can be easy.
It's this deck's pretty straightforward. It's arguably like the easiest deck in the game, to be honest.
It's uh, it's not so easy that a bot can play it. Let's put it that way. Um,
Apparently not. I mean, bots can't even use Mortar Coil. They like Mortar Coil first, man.
yeah.
That's why they're on Elven Archer. You know that?
And the archer used to hit their face. There has been some update to the Zoobots where the archer no longer hits their face. It's very difficult to play aggro
No,
decks into
but
them now.
what I like with Druid, I don't know how to explain this, but you can make like a rule book, and basically every game you do the same thing. Like if you play like Miracle Rogue, like every game will be different. Like you'll get into like a completely different like scenario every game, and you just like if you lose, like personally, I don't know like why I lost the game usually. When I'm on Druid, every game like you're gonna get into like similar scenarios like tens of times. And then if you misplayed a scenario before, you'll know what to do like next scenario if that makes sense. It's like hard to explain, but you basically do the same thing every game. You'll get to like the same scenarios so many times.
Yeah, I think, there's something to be said too about decks like Rogue being a little bit more reactive. Combo Druid tends to be more proactive in the sense that we're happy to just place minions on curve, whether it's, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or, Wild Growth into 4, 5, 6 kind of thing. But a lot of times we're trying to just plant the biggest thing that we can because it creates problems for other decks. Dealing 6 damage to a Druid of the Claw is non-trivial for a lot of decks. Or, Ancient of War is another one where dealing 10 damage to a taunt minion for a deck like Zoo can be really difficult. So we we have kind of a more straightforward game plan maybe in some cases.
No, what I mean is, like, let's say I'm playing a Druid Mirror. Like, on turn 3, if I Big Game Hunter, I know I'm gonna play Big Game Hunter as tempo, for example. That's like a rule I've like made up. And like every time in Druid Mirror, I just insta tempo the big game, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like a bunch of scenarios like that. You just like you've been in the scenario so many times, you know what to do next time. And it's just beautiful.
I don't want to get too far off track here, but there is something I think really
Okay.
valuable and that you're saying here about just how to approach competition in general that sometimes is not always apparent to players, and that is that having this mentality that when we lose a game, we look at that game and we think, what was the mistake that I made? Because inevitably, most of the times when we lose a game, we may have gotten bad draws, but a lot of times we've made some mistake in the game, right?
Yeah, unless you're against Rogue, yeah.
Yeah, of course, there are times when your opponent just outdraws you or you just don't draw the cards. But being able to recognize when we could have made, a critical choice that we didn't, where we might have made the wrong choice, and then looking back at that, saying, I'm going to improve next time. If I'm in the same situation, I'm going to try doing the other thing instead. That's kind of the key to competitive success in a lot of cases. And I also noticed that you don't seem to be too emotionally attached to these losses either. If you're really upset after losing a game, then it's hard to look back on it and learn something. So maybe sometimes some good advice is to have a little bit more dispassionate of an approach, accept that we're going to lose games, but be able to look back and make some corrections or adjustments on our plays that then kind of helps us improve in the long term.
Hmm.
Or maybe we just play our minions on curve. Well, I guess we'll find out today. Um, okay, so let's build this deck together. Pop open the collection here and get started.
Can you stream on Discord so I can look at that?
Yeah, I got you already. All right,
There we go.
there you go. Okay, so where do you want to start here? What's the most OP thing in this deck?
Oh, wild growth.
Okay, wild growth. Why wild growth?
I mean, you cheat out what? Like, what is it, 6 mana, 7 mana? I don't know how the maths work, but you cheat out a lot of mana with that card.
Yeah, gaining one empty mana crystal early may seem like something that's rather trivial, but being number one, like one turn ahead of your opponent, essentially every turn, gives us a big tempo advantage. We can just play minions that are awkward for them to remove or deal with. And like you mentioned, every single turn we're getting that extra mana. So not just on the first, turn that we have a chance to utilize it when we have 4 mana, but throughout the entire game. So that's an interesting way of looking at it, that it kind of accumulates this extra mana over the course of the game. What are the other OP cards in this? What's the second most OP?
Yeah, probably Innervate.
Yeah, I think so too. Explain that to us a little bit.
Oh, it's just like the most broken card against aggro you can possibly ask for, right?
It's
do
pretty
like-
strong, yeah.
It's turn 2, they're like, I'm gonna play my juggler. Just like Innervate like Grove, like you have the board. It's just like GG pretty much.
Yeah, I feel like I've broken
And
many
the
a
card
keyboard
is,
over that.
and the card like, without this card you like lose every game as Shaman as well.
Yeah, now this is one of the only mana cheat options we have available in Classic. There are also things like Preparation, I guess you could say Sorcerer's Apprentice or Dread Corsair, some of the cards we don't see too often that can mana cheat as well. But Innervate, gaining 2 mana crystals this turn. You already mentioned Keeper of the Grove. What are some other options that we can have with Innervate?
Innervate Ragnaros against turn 5 Auctioneer,
Mhm.
like Giga Broken. People don't really know about this, I think.
Get a like 50-50
Like,
chance
what
to
you
just win the
do-
game.
Yeah, pretty much. So like, if you keep Innervate in your hand, what you can only really do is you're Ragnaros already, but what you do is just keep Innervate. On turn 5 when they do their Auctioneer Coin Conceal, usually Druid just lose. Like you can't clear it and it ends the game, right?
Right.
But if you Innervate out Ragnaros, you win the 50-50, like you're gonna win that game, like every time.
So would you...
So it suddenly gives you like a win coming as Auctioneer.
Yeah, no, we'll get to matchups and mulligans in a second, but maybe I'm curious. Would you keep Wild Growth, Innervate, Ragnaros in your opening hand if that were
Oh,
if that were your mulligan?
100%,
Okay.
100%. So if I'm on the coin, I would keep Ragnaros solo. Because if you draw Wild Growth or Innervate, you can kill Auctioneer, right?
Mhm.
If you're on the coin with Wild Growth, then you definitely keep Ragnaros as well, because then just don't burn the coin and you can rag turn 6 Auctioneer. I mean, if they turn 5 Auctioneer is what it is, but it's a 3-card combination. Like Auctioneer Conceal on turn 6, pretty likely, and you can kill that with Growth Coin. Yeah, and then like if you're off coin, if you have Innervate, you also keep it, because you can do it against turn 5 Auctioneer then.
Now, one thing that I recall from when we spoke with Thunder about his Malagos Druid, which has some similarities to this Druid deck, one of the things I noticed was the deployment of Innervate was sometimes, to me, a little bit less intuitive than I would have expected. Normally, I would think Innervate is the kind of thing that you want to play as soon as possible, because the percentage increase in the amount of mana available to you is much higher if you're lower mana, right? Like going from 3 to 5 is a bigger difference than going from 8 to 10. But I noticed that high-level Druid players tend to deploy Innervate for specific plays like double combo, or like you're talking about Ragnaros.
No. I don't like double combo. But it's very, very, very simple, right? So like, let's say how to put this? You basically use the curve out, okay? So let's say on turn 3, right? And you have a 5-drop and a 4-drop. Insta Innovate 5-drop, right? And then you play 4-drop next turn. Like it's not more advanced than that usually, right?
Right.
If you're on turn 4 and you have a 6-drop and a 5-drop, you innovate 6, play 5 next turn. And that's basically how you use innovate, is that you curve out 2 turns in a row.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Unless against rogue, you say you need the Ragnaros. Then it gets a little more advanced, but
Yeah, I think sometimes ramp also is a little bit misunderstood. Maybe a little bit less so in classic, maybe more in standard where they have cards like Overgrowth or Play Nourish as a main deck option. But I wonder if you could explain what's the purpose of ramp. There's the obvious one where we're getting a little bit ahead of our opponent and just playing better stuff. But you've mentioned a little bit about like smoothing out the curve, making like later combo decisions, maybe some practical choices. Why is ramp so powerful?
I don't know. I mean, you spend more mana, right? Spending mana good. I mean, that's not really more to it. You play like an earlier Jones against Warrior or something. It's like good to ramp, right?
I get the feeling that you have an addiction to spending all of your mana every turn.
Yeah, pretty much. Like that's basically play Druid. It's like if you're not spending mana, you need to think like you need to have like a good reason to, right? And like if your opponent does like 5-2 you have a swipe in your hand. It's turn 5. Like you play the swipe.
Of course.
Like you don't play the Drake. But basically, if you're not gonna spend mana, like you need a good reason, right? Like you don't play like a Senjin or a Claw. That makes no sense. It's just I don't know what to say really. I mean,
Yeah, I think, maybe one thing I would say is that planning for future turns with Innervate is always a good idea. That there are times at which we want to innervate something out, and times at which it's okay for us to wait and use the innervate for a later turn, whether it's
yeah, I
for
would.
Ragnaros or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, the only matchup with Innovate without follow up is Shaman, and it's okay to innovate out like a Grove against like a Juggler without follow up, but usually I like to like wait a turn, like innovate 5-drop into 4-drop something.
Yeah, absolutely. Without a wild growth, sometimes innervate can really help us smooth out our curve. So that we have something to play on turn 3. Can get a little bit ahead on the board, force out some of those 2v1s, like getting a Shaman to double Lightning Bolt to Druid of the Claw, something like that. So yeah, smoothing out the curve, it's not a win condition in and of itself to be playing ramp, but it's there as a tool to just help us make better plays more consistently every single turn, I think. Let's talk a little bit about this combo that we got in here. So I think most people are familiar with this. For those who aren't, tell us about Force of Nature Savage Roar.
Mm, I mean, it's a 40 damage combo from hand. What can I say really? I would say it's totally fine to use this like clear minions. Like if you ever played Ramp Druid, like you'll understand that you don't need combo to win games. Like it's very, very rare where you actually need combo to win games.
Mhm.
I guess Male Druid, you definitely need combo to win games. You just fucking clear a board non-stop, you counter damage, you send combo into combo and you kill them, but in most matchups, I just combo to clear minions, like most of the time, if it's like efficient.
Mhm.
And like you have good cards in Druid, you don't need this to win games usually.
Yeah,
Uh,
and
I guess like handlock, if like scenario you want to keep it, because multi-joint's a card, but in most matchups just use this clear board, man. Don't just keep this for OTK.
I like this practical approach to some of these cards, where I think a lot of players are nervous to let go of Force of Nature or Force of
No.
Nature and Savage Roar, but if we play Force of Nature to clear the board efficiently, it kind of paves the way for us to hit our 7, 8, 9 turns. And take over the board. And once we do, those minions are hitting already for as much as Force of Nature Savage Roar is going to hit for, right? Like if we didn't have a clear board, we wouldn't be able to play big minions and swing face. So this can be kind of a useful way to bridge the gap.
Yeah, I mean, Yeah. My Savage Shore is like the probably combo. This is why you play Druid if you want. It's like Savage Shore is a really bad card. And Prostate is actually a really good card though. But the probably combo is the Savage Shore is just a crazy bad card without Burst Nature. So
Now,
you get like less dead hands.
oh yeah, I see what you're saying. Um,
Yeah.
so
Because like
yeah,
imagine you play like Druid Mirror, right? Like, if you draw Wild Growth, you win. But if you play Combo Druid, you can lose because you can draw like Savage Run shit and don't have like turn 4 play.
mhm.
So it's yeah.
Now this combo deals 14 damage from hand. Um, Sometimes I think when players are playing against Druid, they're maybe not always aware of the threat of Force of Nature, Savage Roar, and a lot of times better players will be aware of that and they'll play around it, even if you don't have it in your hand. So I'm curious, can you tell us a little bit about, are there situations where we bluff Force of Nature, Savage Roar in our hand, where we swing face and bring somebody down to 14, even though we don't have the combo, just to make them afraid, to make them taunt up or to heal when they might not have wanted to anyway?
Mm. I mean, I don't know how you would. I don't, but I could see it maybe being a thing. I mean, I don't think so. No.
You're
I
not
mean, it
you're
depends.
not a
Like, you just
bluffing
want to
kind of
make
guy.
like. No, if I'm playing Hunter, I'm hella bluffing my secrets. like, like I'm hella bluffing my secrets. I'll drop like an explosive trap versus like a carrot or something. They just won't hit. It's hilarious. But no, like you're playing a tempo deck. Like, you just want to make like tempo efficient plays. Like, why are we trying to fucking make it complicated? I don't know, man.
Sure, sure. No,
It would have to be like a very fucking specific scenario, but that would have to be like good. Like what matchup would you want to do that against? Like, I don't understand. Like, in what scenario that would ever be like a play you'd want to make?
I mean, I would assume at some point you get somebody kind of low, maybe hand lock, something like
I
that.
guess you're playing like Druid Mirror. It's like bait out a tons because you have Black Knight in hand. Could be like a reason. Apart from that, I don't see a point to like the bluff like that.
Sure. In a deck like this that plays a little bit more proactively than your average deck, or maybe more proactively than a deck like Rogue does, or mid-range Shaman, we usually just want to place threats on the board. There is, the potential to bluff people. People always will be afraid of Force of Nature, Savage Roar. We'll try and play around it in general. So we always have this kind of lingering threat, even if it's not in our hand. Our opponents have to be very careful of going to 14 life or below because they know that even if you don't have Force of Nature, Savage Roar, it might be just one top deck away.
I mean, usually doesn't matter, right? I mean, if they sit at 14 HP, like they're probably gonna die like the turn after, or the turn after, or like blah 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 blah. They can't just. I don't really know how to explain it, but you can't just play on combo all the time, man.
Right,
Like, you really can't. You're
right.
just gonna die like next turn to combo, then next turn to combo. Like, you gotta make a comeback. You don't hit combo in like 5 turns, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. That's something actually that's maybe worth remarking on too. That we sometimes when we're in a position where we're playing against Druid and we would die to Force of Nature, Savage Roar, it's not worth it to play so defensively that we just lose later as like a aggro deck or something. Sometimes we just pretend they don't have Force of Nature, Savage Roar,
you
just go
know,
face.
this other combos for Snake Savage Lord, right? Like, Schwartz Savage Lord, you can Savage Lord. Like, you don't just want to calculate the damage for Snake Savage Lord. Like, you have like a trillion combos, Like, you can do like Savage Lord swipe, how much damage is that? How much damage charge? Savage Lord, okay, he burned one charge, so maybe like double Savage Lord is more likely. Oh, he had a bunch of dead cards, double Savage Lord is really likely. Like, it's like a bunch of combos you want to look at, not just like Snake Savage Lord, if that makes sense.
Yeah, we got a couple other minions that we can play with that are or more direct damage. You'd mentioned Swipe already. 2 copies of that. That's kind of an auto include here. One of our board clears. That's not necessarily the best board clear, but it can be, it can be strong against decks that play a lot of 1 health minions. But it is kind of a limited card. Druid has notoriously always been a little bit short on easy, good single card removal spells that kind of clear the entire board. But Swipe does a pretty decent job, and it can go face for 4 damage, which can help get somebody into lethal range if we're looking that way. You also mentioned Druid of the Claw. We've got a couple copies of that in here. What? Now this is a choose one of those choose one cards. We got charge or +2 health and taunt. So there's a little flexibility here, right? We can play this with Savage Roar, like Hero Power, Druid of the Claw, Savage Roar on a turn, and do what's that? 9 damage. So we have some other options for dealing damage there. Would you say Druid of the Claw most of the time we're playing it as a taunt, or most of the time we're playing it as a charge?
Oh, definitely taunt. Like almost every time taunt. It's really good at charging as warrior though. You trim armor, you still sums the card right. But usually taunt definitely. It can be good against suited to feel like an alpha.
Yeah.
Like probably like I'll say maybe like 8 to 10 taunt.
Mhm.
And like very niche times to actually go charge.
Yeah, I imagine sometimes an easy 2-for-1, like you were mentioning against Warrior, maybe you charge into an Armor Smith to force 1 charge of Fiery War Axe and kill an Armor Smith for just 1 card.
No. So like let's say the warrior has 5 armor, right? Like Zoolock of 3. You can't go taunt because there's no shield summit, right?
Right.
So you go charge to trim the armor. And in this scenario, you gotta ignore the armor smith. If you skill armor smith, you still have armor. So basically, the way you kill armor smith in warrior mirror is you look their armor, and if they have enough armor to like kill your shit with shield slam, you ignore the smith. Then you go trim armor instead. Basically. And this is like one of the only matchups where I like to like mess up my curve. Like let's see on turn 4, right? Where is 5 armor? You have a 4-drop and a 5-drop. Like I would coin charge here into 4-drop the on shield slam.
Hmm.
So it's like a good matchup, right?
Yeah.
Now let's say, I said earlier that you want to play to win. Like this is not a game in play, right? But because like warrior is like 60-40 favored, you can make plays like this and still win, right? Yeah, like you're not playing as like Shaman, you can't make plays like this.
Yeah,
If that makes sense.
yeah, definitely. I mean, it has a lot of potential to, uh, go face or be used as a rush minion, or just, most of the time to be, +2 health and taunt. But just having the option, even though we don't always use it or we seldom use it, to charge this minion, we can still get a lot of value out of it as a charger, if the situation demands it. A couple other cards to add here. Wrath. I feel like this one doesn't need too much explanation. We got 3 damage that we can deal, or we can cycle this for 1 damage as well. Now, one thing that's interesting to me is you've got 1 copy of Azure Drake. Traditionally, we've seen 2 copies of Azure Drake in the deck. Can you explain your choice to just put 1 of these in here?
Oh, because I want to play Hearthstone. Like you don't want to play double Drake and Hearthstone.
Mm-hmm.
Like too much.
No, it's something also we've seen. I suppose the Miracle Rogue deck building meta has sort of evolved to the point where most players, I think, are playing Azure Drake with just 1 copy. We don't see too many double Drake lists anymore. Do you feel like that trend kind of is continuing here, or is it just the choice to have Harrison in that 5 slot?
I mean, I like Harrison the meta. It's like mid-range Shaman still playing Doomhammer now.
Mm-hmm.
I remember like 6 months ago something, like Nox was like built this like Senjin Shaman list, I believe. It's like only playing it on ladder. And he was playing it without Doomhammer. So like, back in the day, people play mid-range Shaman without Doomhammer, you're just copying him. But then we have people like Hoskon and some other people who like start running Doomhammer. People are copying them, so I think if people like Doomhammer and Shaman, like it's a good reason to put in Harrison. And
Definitely.
people not. Uh, but
Yeah.
overall, like if you look at matchups, like Azure Drake versus aggro, you're not playing this versus aggro. Like it's pretty much unplayable, right? Harrison versus aggro, insane. And like if they're not on Zoolock, like you'll get Harrison every aggro matchup. I can't think of one matchup where like Harrison's a bad card against like aggro that's not so. So you get like a really good chorus aggro all of a sudden. You get rid of a bad card. I guess like Control Warrior, like Azure Drake's great, but then Harrison's better.
Right.
I guess Rogue, Harrison's great because it helps you draw Ragnaros. Like Harrison's just better to me, man. Like on paper, it's all the matchups. Like Drake is better. It's like Druid Mirror. Like Druid Mirror ends on turn 2. Like it doesn't matter. Like the game's decided turn 2, man. Like an Azure Drake won't change anything. Let's be real. So and then like maybe Priest. Like you beat Priest anyway as well. So like maybe you know better, but I really can't think. Like you really don't need Drake, to be honest. I feel like Harrison just outclasses pretty much every matchup, except Druid and Priest is like what comes to mind.
Would there ever be a situation where you would put a second Azure Drake in and maybe go with Acidic Swamp Ooze for weapon destruction, or do you really value the card
No,
draw
no.
that you get?
Oh, you mean second Drake and Ooze?
Or just, one Drake and an Ooze, either way. Is there ever a
You need
situation in which you'd want this tempo card, the Ooze, rather than the card draw from Harrison?
the thing is, you want to have 4 or 5 drops. I think 4 or 5 drops is fine. Like you're playing like we said earlier, we're playing a mana spending deck, right? And like to spend mana consistently, you want 4 or 5 drops. If that makes sense. Like consistently draw 5 drops, like 4 or 5 drops, like the magic number.
Mhm.
So you can't really run the Ooze unless you want second Drake, because then it's only 3 5 drops, and then you're not gonna spend mana like as consistently.
Yeah.
And
Uh,
Ooze, it's gonna be worse against Rogue. Like to be honest, against Rogue, I'll probably just drop an Ooze and don't even have a weapon. Like you basically use Jones against Rogue for just the draw, like a 5 mana lore. I mean, I don't really see. I mean, Ooze may be better in Druid Mirror, but even then, like they like Wrath it, they don't do anything turn 2 anyway. You don't have Groves.
and as far as the
I don't
spell
know.
damage from Drake is concerned, do you ever miss that? Having the spell damage +1 for the swipe that can clear off totems, or for Wrath
Yeah,
for
yeah, yeah,
2?
yeah, of course. But
I mean, it's nice to
so,
have, but do you miss not having it more consistently?
uh, I mean, yeah, sure. But I like the Jones. Like you say, like spell damage against totems, but like Harrison Jones is probably better with Shaman anyway, so I don't really see the logic
Mhm.
personally. But I like the Jones person at the moment. But you can play double Drake Sir Jones if you want. I want to play Usta, I think.
Yeah, I think also part of your deck building approach seems to be to, evaluate the opportunity cost of not having something like Harrison in the deck. And like you mentioned, maybe it would be nice to have another Drake in here if we could, if we had 4 or 5 drops to consistently hit him. But we got to make a choice at some point. If we want our curve to be exactly what we want, we can't have 2 Drakes in there. So I like your reasoning to cut one of them, put in Harrison.
Right. If you had the option to put in like a Fudge of the Claw, I would take it because that's like a great card. But Drake, it's like an average card, and the reason you play Drake is to get like enough 5 drops. But like with Harrison, we have enough 5 drops. So it's not like S plus card. Like it's just like a solid card that we don't need anymore. So enough 5 drops, I think.
Now I'm going to throw Ragnaros in here. I think we've already discussed this card a little bit. Well, we're spending a lot of mana, and so putting Ragnaros in there makes sense. One thing I
Uh, yeah.
one thing I notice about this deck is it's the only 7 attack or more minion that we play. Is there ever any concern about BGH getting value against this one card?
Well, 100%. This is why playing this card is difficult, right? Like you play this against like Warrior, and suddenly they get big amount of value, right? And this is what makes this like card difficult to play with, because you gotta think like, okay, if my Rag hits face and he has Big Hunter, will that like end the game? And answer is yes. Then you go like reconsider, like is that worth the risk? Blah 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 blah.
Mhm.
And then in Druid Mirror, I've noticed if they don't big game your Rag, like Rag will end the game. Like we're talking, like it's an even game. Like Rag will end the game. in Druid Mirror if you don't have Behemoth there. But even so, like you got a tempo Behemoth that matchup. It's like you missing a 4-2 will probably cost you a game in that tempo matchup as well. So it's kind of a difficult card to use because Behemoth's a card, but I mean it's definitely deserves a place in deck. It gives you Link on this rogue and everything. It's like it's just an insane card.
Yeah, there are a lot of decks that don't play Big Game Hunter either, where it's perfectly okay for us to play Rag as well. And like you mentioned in the Druid Mirror, if it doesn't get BGH'd, then it's got 8 HP, and that's a tough number. Well, just in general, Druid doesn't have great options to just cleanly remove some minion. They don't have Shield Slam or Execute, things like that that are highly efficient or good tempo plays.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Well, basically, like Druid Mirror, like you're both doing the same thing, right? Like you're playing the same deck. So like if you make a play, let's say you played this, you kill like a 5-drop, and you don't have an efficient way to clear it, like you're basically like suddenly like 5 mana ahead or something, right?
right.
And like getting an advantage like that will end the game. So and
Yeah.
if they big game it, then they will end the game because you're like suddenly behind like 5 mana. So it's really just a card that when it gets played, it will like a game will end in like a Dread Mirror. Like either you will lose or you win when this card gets played. So like if you're ahead, you can't just autopilot drop this and curve. If this card hits face, yeah, big game, you're gonna lose. It's a card you need to be very fucking careful before you play it.
Yeah, losing that tempo and I mean spending an entire turn of 8 mana on this minion only to have it killed by 3 mana plus, they get to drop whatever, Druid of the Claw or something. Yeah.
So that's basically like how you would lose a game to draw Wild Growth and they don't. So you do play like that. It's like you want to avoid plays like that. Feel like Wild Growth advantage, right? Usually.
So maybe this card can sometimes also be a comeback mechanic, as maybe we're behind on mana, but we get to innervate out Rag.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Insta Rag, yeah.
Yeah. All right, we had a couple other cards in here. So we had some Druid class cards. One of those is this card, Keeper of the Grove. What's this card's role in the deck?
I mean, card is just completely broken. It's insane versus aggro. It's insane versus not aggro. It's just like completely broken.
I hate playing against this card so much. I really do.
It's nuts. Like, how can they print a card that's like insane versus aggro, and then like when you're not against aggro, it's still insane. Like, how does that work?
Dude, this motherfucker has ruined so many good aggro hands for me. I can't even describe. 2/4. Like.
Yeah, it's insane. I keep this all aggro decks.
Yeah, I mean, I really can't stress enough how strong Keeper of the Grove is against aggro. If you innervate this out against pretty much any aggro deck, your odds of winning like skyrocket. Because not only do you remove their juggler or whatever damage they have on the board, now you've got a 4 health body that's got just enough attack to kill anything that comes down on turns, 2, 3, 4, or 2 and 3, and will likely be able to get 3 for 1, sometimes 4 for 1. And it's not totally useless in control matchups either. You have a silence on this as well, right? This card is so annoying.
The thing is, like, if I'm against Warrior, I have 4 mana and nothing else to play. Like, I'm throwing this in your face, I'm gonna be honest.
Sure.
Like you need Tempest, dude.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
Against it, I would say this card's strength is primarily in the aggro matchups. But just tack on the silence there, just in case we were missing some value on this already insane card. Keeper of the Grove really hard to play against.
Good card for sure, yeah.
That's
a lot.
A couple other there's another class card here that's very powerful that we've got 2 copies of, Ancient Allure. Tell us about this guy.
It's basically like Keeper of the Grove, right? It's like insaneness control. Okay versus aggro. I'm not sure what to really say. I guess Freeze Mage. You want to hold off this off the Alexstrasza usually. Unless you have like little or nothing to do, then maybe you can drop it sometimes tempo, but I guess Warrior, I like to keep this with Wild Growth. I would never keep Scout Wild Growth though. Because Warrior has 2 win cons versus Druid. win con 1 is they just out-tempo you. They drop like Smith on 2, Acolyte on 3, Stab Max on 4, like Taskmaster on 4, Taskmaster Axe. Like they have a lot of 4-man options, Scork Gun, and they just win by tempo. So that's like one loose gun with this card.
Mhm.
But if you have Wildgrowth as Warrior, basically you won't get out-tempoed. So like you do this with Wildgrowth, and it's like checkmate. It's like you win. It's like the perfect combination. Like covers up both their win cons basically.
Yeah, and we
It'd be
can
like
we can get a lot of card advantage against Warrior, I think, as well, where at some point they're inevitably going to have to start 2-for-1ing themselves on some of our minions. They can't
yeah.
perfectly
But
cleanly remove every single one, right? So drawing 2 cards, putting a 5/5 on the board, it more than replaces itself, and it's a difficult thing that might already 2-for-1 them as well.
but definitely don't keep Somewhat Wildgrowth because you can easily lose the tempo of a warrior like very easily.
Yeah. Okay, we got a couple of taunt minions here. I wanted to ask you about this 4 slot because we have a couple of choices. Traditionally, in like some very early versions of this deck, Chillwind Yeti I think was just the go-to card. Now in your list we
Yeah.
don't play any of those. We play Senjin instead. What's the choice here, and why did you decide to go with Senjin rather than Yeti?
I mean, I play with both, and like the Yeti, it's so fucking greedy. Holy hell! Like you have one attack, you're sacrificing a taunt for that. Like hello. And then you have tough matchups like Shaman, like the one attack, like all the minions are 3 health. Like it's Yeti, Senjin, it's the same shit. I guess Rogue, it doesn't really matter because you're superior minion anyway. I mean, it hurts in the Druid Mirror, which is actually bad because a lot of people play Druid in Europe. But I feel like the Senjin personally, like, it's crazy greedy to play Jedi, I think. You win into his aggro, like, down, like, most ridiculous amounts, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, you make a good point here that we're only sacrificing one attack for to get a taunt here, and the 5 HP is all right. It can save you from dying to a combo against Druid. Because of this 5 HP, it's a little bit more difficult to remove. 5 HP also just in general kind of a tricky number for a lot of decks to deal. Warrior has stuff like Shield Slam, but most decks don't have a spell that does 5 damage and cleanly executes the Senjin. So either way, this card is probably going to get in the way. And like you mentioned, against aggro, just a 3/5 taunt is going to be infinitely better than a 4/5 vanilla minion.
Yeah. I mean, the 4 attack's okay with Warrior because Smith's a card, but even then, like, they usually like Taskmaster Smith or something, so yeah, sometimes the 4 attack doesn't even matter into that either.
Right.
It's, I don't know, man. I feel like the Yeti is just crazy greedy. But if you like the Yeti, you can play the Yeti.
Are there ever situations in which you're facing a ton of druids on the ladder and you feel like you just take the Senjins out and put Chillwind in?
Not really. I mean, if I'm facing a ton of druids, I mean, the Druid Mirror, it's not the most fun, so usually I stop playing or I like go up like Counter Black Knight, the deadly shot and just screw 'em up.
Yeah, speaking of Black Knight, I wanted to ask you some questions about the 6 slot here. Now, in tournament metas, we see this being a very flexible slot where some people will go full value with the 6 slot and put as many of these Sylvanas, Black Knight, and Cairne in as possible. Now, your list plays several of these. It plays Cairne, which I think fairly self-explanatory card. Very high value, sticks on the board, can help enable Force of Nature, Savage
Yeah,
Roar
it's like
combos.
the perfect Druid card, right? You
Yeah,
spend mana, you get a body. You
yeah.
dream for Druid.
But we got a couple other options here. We've got maybe more flexibility in our choice of Sylvanas, Sunwalker, Black Knight.
Black.
I
You
could,
need to play Black Knight because in Druid Mirror, you contrast Wild Growth. Like people make jokes that game ends, but one way to beat Wild Growth is like invade Black Knight. Like usually, let's say like they draw Wild Growth, they play the 4 drop, and turn 5 they play like Druid of the Claw. You invade Black Knight turn 4, and you're gonna win that game. Like you're bound to win that game. And unless they have like the most insane curve ever, it's correct for all the druids to not play around Innervate Black Knight, I think. Like you can't just like assuming you don't have like a 6-drop, you can't really go short for that claw and play around like in with Black Knight. You need to have like most insane hand ever to play around stuff like that.
Is Druid
It's
always your primary target with the Black Knight, or is this card good against other decks?
it's like basically it needs to be in the deck because Druid Mirror Wild Growth is like ends the game otherwise. And Black Knight's basically the only way you can beat Wild Growth. But I mean, it's good into like handlock. It's good into that's about it, honestly. What is it good against? Warrior don't play taunts usually.
Right.
It's basically like Druid, some handlock. No one plays handlock though.
If you were not seeing a lot of Druid or Handlock on the ladder, let's say you're in some region that has like 90% Zubots, would you consider taking out Black Knight and putting something else in the 6th slot, like a second Sunwalker?
I don't think so. It needs to be there for Druid.
I see.
It really is just the only way to beat Valkyrie, to be honest.
So other than these two, the Cairne and the Black Knight, we got Sylvanas and Sunwalker here. Usually we play 3 minions in the 6th slot, right?
Yeah, like 3 minions. So I'd be like, usually if you play Sylvanas, Black Knight, Cairne, it's like three 6-drops like magic number. I mean, you got First Stage as well, which gets played on 6 every now and then.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can go on.
So when you're choosing between, you've already got two. You've got Cairne, which is I think the most natural inclusion. You've got the Black Knight, which sounds pretty non-negotiable. When you're choosing between Sylvanas and Sunwalker, what's the calculus there? What goes through your mind?
Well, basically, it's actually really simple, to be honest. I mean, Druid, you want to spend mana, dropping Sylvanas on curve, it's not great. Like the card is slow. Like this card needs to like sit in your hands for like the perfect board to give value. And like when I used to play with Sylvanas, like I would just drop this empty board to spend my mana. To be honest, so it didn't really work out. It's a very heavy Druid meta though, so Sylvanas definitely ain't bad, but it doesn't fit Druid, I don't think. And Starbucks actually kind of nuts. Like you play this against like Aggro Pally, it doesn't die to quality, it doesn't die to Hunter's Mark. Even against Control Warrior, it doesn't like to execute. It's the Divine Chill is actually fucking huge. Even against Druid Mirror, I mean, obviously have the Black Knight that game ends, but if you don't have Black Knight, you need to like add a Hero Power Wrath your Divine Shield, and then basically you're playing a 4 mana 4/5. I think the maths work. You need to like spend 2 mana to get a Divine Shield. So basically playing Page Yeti. Yeah, I don't know if that works like that, but it's like a very playable card in every matchup, I feel. And again, like you go against like face something, right? Like Sylvanas, it's completely unplayable. Like you literally just cannot even play this card at all.
Right.
Sunwalker, on the other hand, it's gonna win you the games. I definitely think it's a close one. Like I sometimes play Sylvana, sometimes play Sunwalker. I tend to go stick with Sunwalker because you can just drop it on curve usually and just like win. But it's a close one, definitely a very very close one. I think on NA I would just prefer go Sunwalker, but consider like a bunch of people actually play Druids on EU. It's a very very close one, and Sylvanas is an interesting one because Sylvanas can beat Wild Growth. It's very rare it beats Wild Growth, but Sylvanas has potential to beat Wild Growth. If the Druid plays like Cairne and they don't have Silence, then Sylvanas will beat Wild Growth. Which is like very long shot though, that the Cairne don't have Silence, but
Yeah.
Sylvanas like the most ridiculous counter to Cairne Bloodhoof like ever, which is like just wins the game pretty much. But it, I mean, it's personal preference really. I think both are like very close. And I guess Control Warrior usually just want to play for hard tempo. Like even though Control Warrior doesn't want silence or anything. I'm not a fan of Sylvanas in that matchup, but maybe need to play with it more to like know for sure. But I'm sure Sylvanas definitely better than Sunwalker, but I think Sylvanas like the gig and nuts as Control Warrior. It should be just like a good counter for sure.
Yeah, and another thing that you'd mentioned a little earlier that I think is worth drawing out is that with this deck, a lot of times it benefits us to be ahead in tempo by placing big minions on the board, forcing out responses. Um, and Sylvanas doesn't really
Right.
play perfectly with that plan, right? Because if we proactively play
Mm,
her on the board, then she can just get removed, right? For 5 health, she'll get removed. And
I
is,
mean,
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, you will get some hard options. Like if you're on 6 mana and you had the option between like Judo the Clan Sylvanas, like technically dropping Sylvanas on empty board is usually be better, right? You see, like they need to actually clear it. But then you maybe want to like keep Sylvanas like the Giga value. Like it's a better card to keep in hand than they do the class well. So, you definitely get hard options, Sylvanas. Uh, if you play with it perfectly, maybe it's like way better than Sunwalker, but I don't know how to play it perfectly personally.
Yeah, it can just flop also. As someone who plays a lot of aggro decks, like I'm, more than happy to see a deck with Sylvanas, Cairne, and Black Knight, right? Like the last card I want to see most of the time is Sunwalker. On turn 6, just regaining that tempo. The Divine Shield's really annoying. Two Sunwalkers feels a little bit weak to me, kind of all the eggs in one basket. So I like how you have it set up here with the Cairne, a Black Knight, and Sunwalker. Ignore Sylvanas because she maybe is just a little bit less consistent than the Sunwalker a lot of the time.
Mm, yeah, I see a lot of high ranked dudes run Sunwalker too. And not a lot of them, but some of them definitely do. Uh, you can also balance it, right? Like you can play either Yeti plus Sunwalker, or you can go Senjin plus Sylvanas. I'm not sure like which combination is better. So like balance the greed and non-greed. I'm not sure, but
or
I've
the
gone like this.
or the ultra greedy double Yeti plus Sylvanas.
Yeah, yeah, don't do that. It's like you're gonna be like, why am I losing to aggro? Why can't I beat aggro? Like, buddy, like you have unplayable cards. Like, what do you mean?
Speaking of aggro, we got a couple things on the lower end that can kind of help us out. Now, we've already talked about Big Game Hunter. Typically, this is not the card that helps us with aggro. But Earthen Ring Farseer, you got 2 copies of this in here. Explain why we play this one and what other options like Harvest Golem there are. Why do we play Earthen Ring Farseer instead of any of the other 3 slots?
Right. So the options are Farseer, Harvest Golems are the only options I think. If you wanna be like really greedy, you can run like double big game one Farseer. It's not bad. The problem with Harvest Golems, you're playing Druids. Like you wanna Mulligan like pretty fucking hard. Like if when I played Harvest Golems, like I wouldn't keep Harvest Golems from opening hand personally. It's like Wild Growth's a card. And the problem with Golem is if you play this card not on 3, like Farseer will just outpass it like by a lot. So the problem with Harvest Golem is like you need to play it on curve, and basically you can't keep it in hand to play it on curve. If that makes sense. It just gets super fucking awkward.
Right. And
Uh,
I suppose
yeah,
maybe we can, we haven't talked too much about matchups and mulligans yet, but most of the time, would you say it's proper to hard mulligan for wild growth in most matchups?
what do you mean by hard mulligan? Like I keep other cards as well, obviously, but
Right,
uh,
like if you have a 4 drop that you could wild growth into, would you ditch that in order to find the wild growth?
oh, 100%. Like I don't keep 4 drop in any matchup.
Right.
I guess Freeze Mage's okay against like controllers. Nah. I don't keep 4 drop in any matchup. Well, I guess aggro keep it grove, but I wouldn't keep sending in any matchup. I'm still.
Yeah, so cards like Harvest Golem, even though it's something to play on 3, you could innervate it out against aggro, and then Wild Growth on 2. You were mentioning that, unless you have the perfect hand, you would probably ditch this card anyway. And it's a little bit less useful in the later game, I think, as well, because Earthen Ring can heal your. It's not just your face that it can heal your minions as well. And when you're playing a bunch of minions that have a lot of HP, being able to
Yeah.
heal those and, value trade in and then heal back up can be pretty decisive, especially thinking of like the Druid matchup, the Druid Mirror, where value trade is really kind of the name of the game. Whoever controls the board
Mm,
is likely to win.
sure. I mean, pretty sure Golem outclass for Senjin there, but not sure.
And, there's some healing in here as well, right? Like, we get low sometimes, play against decks that do a lot of face damage. It's nice to just be able to kind of get out of reach of that. And for a 3/3 body, if you get hit in the face a couple of times by aggro early, then you play this, heal your face, put a 3/3 on the board, delay that fight for another couple of turns until you can drop something like Sunwalker or Druid of the Claw.
Yeah, I don't think Golem is better as aggro either, though. But yeah, sure.
Yeah, this is also, Golem also has the Savage Roar potential as well. They have to kill the body twice, otherwise it's possible to keep this on the board and, get a little bit of extra juice out of that 14 damage.
Yeah, true.
We got one last card in here. This one is particularly maybe anti-aggro choice. Explain this one, Ancient of War.
It's a very... I mean, the card is just good, right? This card is like insane versus Zoolock. And it's definitely a hard card to use as well. This card is like, you play this as Warrior gets executed. Like basically every deck in the meta game has like a perfect answer to this, which is why people dislike this card. Like Warriors execute, Shaman as Hex, Aggro Palace Equality, Druid as Black Knight. I mean, I'm pretty sure Priest as Shadow of Death. Like every class has like a perfect answer to this except Zoolock. But basically, this card on paper seems terrible, right? But this card is just really good, I think, because the problem with Druid is like when you fall behind, you just lose. Like you have no like comeback stuff, and like knowing like when to take a risk and not play around shit is like when this card really shines. Like let's say the Face Hunter is killing you, right? You drop this, you pray for the Hunter's Mark, it's probably gonna win you the game.
Mm.
You would definitely get a lot of hard decisions with this card, just like Ragnaros. There's a lot of punishes to it, but I think if played correctly, this card definitely has potential to bring a lost game to one game, and especially in aggro, but I guess everything really. Like you get the option with this and like Ancient Lore and like a Dread Mirror. Like this is gonna ditch out more tempo than Lore, but if they Black Knight insta lose, like you'll definitely get hard decisions with this card, but I think the card is just straight not to keep in your deck, and you want to like learn how to play with it properly because the card is just really good.
And how often are you using this uproot choice here with +5 attack rather than +5 health and taunt?
I've actually done it versus like Rogue as well. Like Rogue's going into turn 5 with Auctioneer Steel, and you go 10 attack to set up a 2/10 lethal, so you can't Auctioneer. It's pretty funny. And basically, like you can actually use 10 attack. Like it's not a joke. Like the 10 attack ain't bad. Like even against Good Mirror, if you're like hard winning, you have a Ragnaros in hand, you want to like this is 5 attack. It's like the big game you probably win with the Ragnaros anyway. And if you get Black Knighted, you actually give it them a win cons. Like, probably at 95% of times you go with the taunt. Let's be real, but there's definitely a consideration to go +5 attack sometimes. Like it can actually be like a genius move.
Yeah, I think like with a lot of these choose one cards, there's a choice that we make almost all of the time. But there's also like, we do have to consider sometimes the other option. I think Ancient of War maybe is the most polarized of all of our choose one cards in the sense
Yeah,
that more often, way more often, we're doing the 5 health and taunt. But yeah, don't forget it is possible to play this as a 10/5 for the viewers out there who have only ever seen this played as a taunt.
Yeah.
It can, like you say, it can soak up resources like BGH that pave the way for Ragnaros to be played. Kind of similarly to how playing early Death Rattle soaks up silence, right?
That's only if you're like really winning though.
Right.
So usually if they get 7 mana worth of value, Big Game Hunter to win the game. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Or if they like tempo the Big Game Hunter, you can play for 10/5 too sometimes if you're winning pretty hard.
Yeah. Tempo BGH on 3, getting punished by a 10/5 Ancient of War, maybe innervated out on 5.
Yeah, that's yeah.
So I wanted to ask you. Ooh, go ahead.
Yeah, it's definitely an option to 10/5 sometimes.
Yeah. I had a couple of other questions here that I'd like to ask before we get into the matchups and mulligans. One of those is about this card, Mark of the Wild here. Now, anytime we see a deck with the Black Knight in it, there's always a possibility of playing Mark of the Wild. It's not the most efficient removal, to be sure, to give a minion taunt and remove it with Black Knight, but it has its uses in certain situations. Have you ever thought about playing this card, Mark of the Wild, or is this just more of a control druid card rather than a combo druid card?
Try that. I mean, it's just not a tempo card, right? That's like the problem. It's like too slow. Rather play like Sylvanas, want like a value card.
Hmm.
I played that in Ramped. I tried that in Ramped, like double big game hunter. Get like more outs with big game combo as well.
Hmm.
And you want to play like slower in Ramped as well.
Hmm.
And even in Ramped, like this card, like I don't think I like it. So it would definitely not fit Combo Druid, I don't think. But it, there's definitely potential with it. Like you play against like Control Warrior with Black Knight's unplayable, don't play taunts. And then suddenly you kill like a Ragnaros with the combo. You can definitely win your game, but it's too slow. And if you can argue that's like flexible because you use on your own minions as well. But if you start using on your own minions, you're just like never gonna pull the combo off.
Yeah,
It's like always gonna be playable on your own minions, right? For the
yeah.
combo. So, I don't know, man. It's I'm not seeing it, but I've seen other people play it, and it's definitely not like complete trash. But I still think it deserves a spot in the deck.
Yeah, it's a little hard to fit it in. I mean, this is one of the decks with the highest value minions in really all of Classic. Cards like Keeper of the Grove and Druid of the Claw, just big, beefy, good, strong minions, Ancient Allure. It's like harder to find a place in there for a card like Mark of the Wild unless we cut other things. Speaking of which, I wanted to ask you just real quickly. You play two copies of Force of Nature, two copies of Savage Roar. Some druids choose to play one copy of the combo, or they play this control druid with zero, or control or mill with zero copies of the combo. So I wanted to ask you, what's the justification for having two copies of each one of these parts of the combo? And is there ever a situation in which you cut Force of Nature, Savage Roar out?
Is there a reason to run like one combo? Is the question?
Yeah, like one combo, two combo, or zero.
Right. I was running only one Force Nature in my Ramp Druid, but they probably had one combo. Okay, so Ramp Druid, you want to play a completely different playstyle. You want to play like a value game and fade a bunch, right? And if you play one combo, it gets really awkward. It's like, what type of game do you want to play now? Do you want to play the trading game or do you want to play the face game? I don't fucking know. Like, you have one combo, you probably can draw it, right?
Right.
So it just messed up your game plan completely, I think. And I would just run two combos or no combo. I think one combo makes sense. It's just like what game plan you're playing one combo? Are you playing the value game or are you playing the face game? Like what game are you playing at this point?
Right.
I'm not seeing it, but
And we don't. We do have good cycling. We have decent cycling. We have two copies of Wrath. We have one copy of Azure Drake, and we have two copies of Ancient Allure. And I suppose Harrison is in there as well. But we don't have
yeah.
like crazy draw, like Buzzard Unleash or Gadgets In. Whatever, an entire deck's worth of spells. We don't have options like that. So for consistency's sake, sometimes it can be difficult for us to find even one copy of our combo Force of Nature Savage Roar, let alone if that's the only copy in our deck. If it's buried in the bottom 10, we might have a lot of trouble getting to it and actually being able to close out the game. One other inclusion here I'm kind of curious about. Thalnos. Is there ever any time that we'd put in Thalnos to this deck?
It's not bad. You could, I don't know what to cut for it. We could cut maybe like one Farseer. It's yeah. I mean, when I play Talnos, I'm gonna play that with tempo. Like, you know me, I spend a mana, and if you like it, you can play it. Like, it's definitely not bad, but I just think like Farseer is better, and like you don't want to keep dead cards in your hand, right? Like you can't just like keep a Talnos in your hand for like a Talnos 5. Like, that's not how you play Druid. So basically, you play it on like 2 if you have it. And then if you get lucky, it's like draw it mid game. You can maybe pull off like a swipe combo, but it's too slow. I think doesn't fit this playstyle.
Yeah, I would think against aggro it has its place because, well, it's a 1/1 body and it empowers a swipe or it empowers a wrath.
Mm,
But again, we usually want to be looking for wild growth in our opening hand, right? And keeping like 2 and 3 drops that aren't wild growth. sort of inhibit that plan of just like ramping up and doing what the deck is actually supposed to do.
Yeah, I would never keep Blood Mischief for now. It's okay in Grid Mirror though, because they play like Wild Growth and then also only have a body on board. But just Mulligan for Wild Growth, yeah.
Are there ever any matchups, like guaranteed, if it's a Zoolock, that you would not keep Wild Growth, or is this a card you put in your hand every single time?
I would definitely keep in every matchup. I mean, the only time we throw it away is for 2 Wild Growths off coin. Then I don't like it. Like off coin, you don't want 2 Wild Growths.
Mm-hmm.
But on coin, it's not so 2 Wild Growths. Like definitely keep both.
All right, I got a couple more quick questions here before we move on to the matchups, and I think these will kind of segue into what we're going to be talking about here with how to play this against certain decks. Now, mid-range decks tend to be really flexible. They can sometimes go the mile and play this grindy style of value trading minions and using removal to in the most efficient way possible. But they can also just do stompy things. So explain to me some of this deck's built-in flexibility that it's got.
To be honest, I don't think I understand the question.
Well, I'm
So,
wondering, like, some decks kind of just, an aggro deck a lot of times just moves forward and kills
okay,
you. A control deck just sits back and
right,
plays, they wait until all your
okay.
threats are gone, then they play Rag and Grom or
So,
something.
like, the question is, what's the place of this deck? Is that the
Yeah,
question?
yeah, so,
Okay, so
yeah.
I guess aggro, like the first couple of turns, you need to clear the board, and then mid game you can race them. Like you don't want to autopilot clear the board mid game. It has some matchups. I guess control. Just want to play tempo
Mhm.
against Injured Mirror. I mean, spend mana. I don't know, and I, I don't know. But,
I think that a lot of times too, these choose one effects can really help us to, have a little bit more flexibility in this deck, right? Cards like Keeper, Druid of the Claw, we don't have to be using these for the most common usage every time. Same with Ancient of Lore or Ancient of War. We don't have to be using those in the conventional way, kind of like we've talked about a little bit already. But just having that flexibility built in can sometimes turn a game that otherwise we wouldn't be favored for us to just push us the extra mile. So I think that that's probably where a lot of the flexibility is built into this deck, but also just cards like Innervate, where we get to sort of choose our own curve a little bit better than most decks would get to. All
mm,
right. So let's move on to discussing some of these matchups and mulligans. So I wanted to start off with um, Miracle Rogue, because this one's a very popular deck, and sometimes is considered a counter to Combo Druid, although I'm not sure that's exactly accurate.
yeah,
So what's that matchup like? What do we want to keep, and how do we play it?
yeah. Rogue definitely stood. You keep Outgrowth, you keep Innovate. I keep Jones. I like Jones.
Mhm.
You keep Ragnaros if you're Outgrowth on coin, and if you're Innovate. And you keep it on coin without Outgrowth, but basically on coin or on Innovate. And so basically, the ramp, Ragnaros, and Harrison. Those are the cards we're keeping this road.
Mhm.
And the way we play matchup is so if they play a 3-drop, I would rather like clear that than play my own 3-drop. I would rather play my 4-drop than clear their 3-drop. That makes sense.
Mhm.
And against like Drake, I rather clear the Drake than play 5-drop. I usually rather play 6-drop than clear Drake. Uh, usually want to play like Cairne instead of clear Drake, but I would not play Sunwalker instead of clear Drake. I would just swipe the Drake instead. And I mean, the way you play the matchup, yeah, it's pretty much like knowing when to clear the board and knowing when to play for. You will get awkward hands where like you will need, like let's say you have like Innovate, and you have like 6 and 5-drop but no 4-drop, and you have a Ragnaros in hand.
Mhm.
Like, at that point, you probably force like did Innovate play and not play for Ragnaros, but it's also like knowing like okay, if you auctioneer's not 5, do I have enough tempo to beat auctioneer 5? And you can do like calculations like Okay, I have enough template with Auctioneer 5 if it's to 0 preps. Okay, I have enough template with Auctioneer 5 is 1 prep. And you want to like figure out like what kind of Auctioneer you're beating. And if the answer is like you're not beating the Auctioneer at all, kind of yeah, mid-range combo, not play for tempo. It's not too much of a matchup. I mean, it's a very RNG matchup, I think, but
Yeah, we'd prefer to be a little bit ahead of the rogue, forcing them to use some of their resources early on, like preps, to ensure that they can't use those with gadgets and later on. Like if we're able to bring out a Druid of the Claw early and they use Backstab Eviscerate on it, well, okay, it sucks to lose our 4/6 taunt, but at the same time, those are, it's 1/0 mana spell that they don't get to use with Auctioneer and, another
yeah,
cheap spell.
I like to do a claw for taunt if that's full HP, but you definitely go short in that matchup quite often.
Hmm. And just in general against Rogue, also, I think your mention of keeping Wrath is important too. One of the worst.
No, I don't keep Wrath personally.
Oh, okay, you don't keep Wrath. So you don't.
Yeah, no,
So when they play like a 3-drop on 3 or something, you're not too concerned with it.
I mean I am, but I'd rather Mulligan for Mulgrowth. I don't think that's like a good enough reason at all.
Sure.
It's yeah, you can usually just ignore it, like turn it to,
Hmm.
or just top like a Wrath or something. Build a swipe, ship something playable.
And since we do have a few extra taunts, more than the average deck, we're not as scared of leaving like a 3/3 on the board that might turn into a 7/3 that's concealed. The
Sure. I mean, it's yeah. If they want to go for like some ridiculous like 6 lethal or something, yeah, you can prevent it. But usually only go for those plays with stuff in hand, anyways.
right.
I don't know.
So we talked a little bit about the rogue matchup. We've already mentioned the Druid mirror a few times, but just as a reminder, so you were saying, it really comes down to who gets wild growth, right?
I would in Red Mirror I would give 3 cards. So Wildgrowth, Innervate, Black Knight, those like the 3 cards that size the matchup.
Hmm.
And like high legend druids, like someone gets like top 10 druid, like they're gonna keep the same cards. So what I like to do is select to pay attention to Mulligan. And if I notice they keep a card and they don't play it on turn 2, and then usually you play Innervate by like turn 4 or something, right? So if
Right.
they keep a card, they just don't play it. Like I know it's Black Knights. Like, I 100% know. So
Right.
you can easily do Black Knight reads if you know what you're doing.
Hmm.
And that's like the only matchup I would like bother to pay attention to Mulligan. But in Druid Mirror, it's like broken to figure out if they're Black Knight or not. But sometimes forget as well. It's like okay, get the left card. Then you're like, oh, did they play the furthest left? Did they play the second far left? Like I can't see. Is it something you can do with deck track or something to see that? I don't know how that works, but
Yeah. In the Hearthstone deck tracker, as you're viewing your opponent's cards, it'll show which ones they mulligan. They'll have a little red M on them, and it'll
yeah,
also
yeah,
show
you're
that
right.
yeah, 0.
Right, but how would that work? Because let's say they like throw away 3 cards, right?
Hmm.
Would the red M would there be no red M's then? Like how would that work? I don't even know.
Yeah, if they toss
Or would
3,
it be
if they toss 3 cards out of their opening hand, then you'll see a red M for each one of the cards that was
yeah,
returned
but
to them.
that's messed up, right? Because how do the because then if they throw away the cards, then I don't know if it's Black Knight, right?
Right. Exactly.
So there should be like a green M on the card they kept. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think for the ones you keep, it just doesn't have any visual indication. It's just like this was in your. Maybe there is. I don't think there
Because
is though.
that's what I need. I need like a green M or something. That means like they kept this card.
I
So I
think
keep track.
if it's got a 0 on it, meaning that they had it in hand on turn 0, and it doesn't have a red M next to it, then it was kept in their opening hand. I think that's how you
So
would do
that's
it.
like kept.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty big. You can do the same in Rogue Mirror too. If they like keep 2 cards, don't play them. Good option to conceal.
Right.
You can like maybe want to keep brag for it, but you shouldn't bother.
Right. I mean, against Rogue, I think a lot of times we just expect that stuff to come down anyway. We're not. It's not like any great mystery to us that they're going to play Gadget Zan as soon as possible, and there are likely hard mulliganing for it as well. So the combo or the combo mirror. we're looking for Innervate, we're looking for Wild Growth, and we're looking for Black Knight. What about some of these other control-y decks, like Control Warrior, for example?
Right, Control Warrior, I keep Wild Growth, and if I have Wild Growth, I keep Lore. I'll keep basically Wild Growth and fucking Cairne, that's it.
Mhm.
I mean, you could keep Innervate too, but I don't like Innervate keep, but it's something I'm still messing around with.
Interesting, not keeping Innervate. I would assume that this is kind of like prep for a Rogue, where you would keep it 100% of the time just because 2 mana crystals, is good early on. You play
Yeah, but
anything.
then they draw your Savage Rose and shit. It's little nothing to play.
Yeah.
But it's a close one, right? But like if I have Cairne and Innervate, I'll keep both. If I like Harrison, I'll keep Harrison and Innervate. Usually I don't solo keep Harrison, but it's a tough one if you want to solo keep it. Like sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Like I'm still messing around with it, but it's it's a close one, I think.
Do you ever keep BGH in your opening hand, just considering that they're going to play Geddon, Ragnaros, Alex, most
Nah.
likely? Never.
I don't like it. It's just
Yeah, we'll draw
I
into it
do
at
it
some
against
point.
Handlock. So.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. The Giant's going to come down on turn 4 or turn 5, maybe. Whereas with Warrior, we're not going to see anything, substantial out of them until turn 7. That's actually a target for BGH.
Yeah, and even then, like Warrior could just win by tempo, right? So it can kill you like turn 7 or some shit before they even play those cards.
Right. How about against Shaman? What's our game plan against mid range and aggro? Is it any different between those two variants?
Okay, mid-range Shaman. Basically, like when you play the matchup, you want to think about Flame Tongue every time. So it's like you want to like know. But basically, I would say like the first couple of totems you always trade. Like going to like the mid game, like sometimes you want to play on Flame Tongue, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you want to like raise them. You don't just autopilot trade that matchup to play on Flame Tongue, but you definitely do a shit on the trading that matchup. Basically, Flame Tongue is just the most ridiculous card ever in that matchup. Like that's what's gonna win them the game. So you want to like figure out how to play around that card. I don't think it's a rule book really. It's like changes game by game. It's really fucking hard to explain the matchup, but it's basically like knowing when to play on Flame Tongue. It's like what you want to figure out the thing. And Mulligan, I like to keep ref in this matchup. Like all the means to 3 HP, it's fun to get value quite early on.
Hmm.
And it's like this matchup's all about like the first like. Is that a card that drove by? What was that? So basically, the game is decided the first like 3-4 turns. Shaman's good. Like whoever gets set on board is probably gonna win. And so Raph will help out a little bit. Basically, I keep Raph, Innervate, Wild Growth, and I think that's it. And this is one of those matchups where messing up your curve is fine. Like you wanna innovate out an early Senjin, clear the totems ASAP. If you're like, let's say they drop a squire on one, okay, and you're on the coin, then you gotta go turn one Senjin, right? Because you don't go turn one Senjin, they will kill both your shit with their flame tongue of the totem. But if they don't play squire on one, you can hold off the coin and then turn two Senjin. Keep the coin and just kill totem because at the same time won't kill your thing. Also, like combine it to like 3 damage spell, but it's like more costly for them, I suppose. And basically, like play like really fucking aggressive early turns and just try hardest to get ahead on board.
Yeah, Shaman has this tendency, I think, against mid-range Druid to play cheap, efficient removal, like let's say a four damage lightning bolt or a hex against one of our big minions. Like we play Cairne, they play hex, but they're always weaving in that hero power, and that's Druid doesn't have a ready way to deal with these totems other than using their own board. Usually, like swipe is a little bit too awkward for the 2 HP totems that they have on the board. So they just they remove totem, And eventually, we're in a state where, like you mentioned, we're terrified of playing a minion on the board because then they're going to play Flame Tongue and trade those crappy totems that weren't doing anything into our stuff. Flame Tongue only costs 2 mana. Lord knows what else they're going to play with it as well. So I can see what you're saying of maybe of trying to get Senjin out early. I assume Keeper of the Grove might be included in there as well, even though it doesn't line up with the Wolves. It does have 2 attacks, so it does work as a totem clearing minion as well.
Yeah, yeah, it's okay to keep. I don't know, man. It's just 2 attacks are so bad to like older minion stuff. So it's like tough one.
Yeah,
Like it doesn't trade against Golem, doesn't trade against Feral Spirit, doesn't trade into like anything. Well, I don't like it personally, but it's not a bad card matchup.
sure. So I could see where Senjin probably is going to have more overall value against the things they're going to be playing. Keeper of the Grove maybe more against more useful against a weaker Shaman hand where they're just like hero powering a lot and not playing out Wolves or Harvest Golem early. Uh,
Yeah, I suppose. I wouldn't keep sending the matchup though, but yeah.
right. We're still looking for wild growth and stuff, but if we can get out one of these early minions and just kind of get ahead of that
Yeah,
toteming, that totem remove kind of play style, then at least it puts some pressure on them. And Senjin also against mid-range Shaman. There's no great way to do 5 damage unless you roll a spell power totem and then play Thalnos the next turn with Lightning Bolt. Senjin likely going to be able to 2v1 a Shaman as well, so probably a pretty good card in that matchup. Other than these kind of control your decks, we haven't talked too much about how Combo Druid does against more aggressive decks. So let's start off by talking about some of these creature-based decks like Zoolock. How does this deck do against Zoolock?
it's maybe like I mean still wins, but maybe like 55 for fights. It's I mean the matchup's simple, right? Like you don't want to play minions because they're just gonna fucking value trade the hell out of you.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, I do the same mulligan as all aggro. Just like Keeper of the Grove, swipe, and then Wrath, Wildgrowth, Innervate. Like those cards just so nuts against all aggro decks.
Mm-hmm.
And I basically like imagine you like if I'm a Wildgrowth, I'm not keeping Senjin to be honest. Did imagine you drop a Senjin, they're gonna like abuse the Surgeon to like 2-1, play like an Alpha or some shit. They're gonna clear it to like a 1-drop.
Yeah.
It's just you can't play minions that matchup to be honest.
Right. I think
You gotta
the issue is
it's
that they're going to be able to
ridiculous.
value trade into you, right? Is that like
Yeah,
a 1-drop Flame Imp with an Abusive Sergeant 1-drop trades into your 4-drop efficiently, and leaves a 2/1 body behind as well. Not to mention the other mana that they get, and Keeper of the Grove still is strong, but at the same time, Soulfire deals with it, right? So any minion we put on the board is likely going to be value traded into or cleanly removed by Soulfire. So yeah, maybe looking a little bit more for our removal options than we are for our creature-based options. We try and play our creatures a little bit later once we've eased some of that pressure of the board, and then dropping stuff like Druid
yeah.
of the Claw and Ancient War, we can kind of close that game out.
And then going shot through claw is also fine that matchup usually. But you don't always go shot through claw.
Hmm. Right, yeah, a 4/6, if we get it soul fired, is likely to get less value than what you're talking about a little while ago with like charging into the Direwolf Alpha or something like that. Just like removing some of the damage, maybe charging into a Knife Juggler as well, because your 4/6 might
Oh,
die.
you can't charge into juggler, but then they're gonna coil it. So it's a play we want to make when we like losing, right? So, like, take a risk, but it's not like optimal plays charge into juggler, the coil.
Right.
That's why charge into alpha is so good. It's at least a 2 HP minion, which is beautiful.
Mhm. Yeah. Alpha Wolf definitely an annoying card for us to deal with. Just being able to provide more potential to trade up into our minions. So Alpha Wolf buffing a 2/1 Leper Gnome makes it a 3/1. Then Abusive Sergeant gives it 5 attack. Now all of a sudden it's killing our Senjin. So yeah, being able to remove that Dire Wolf is really nice. What about burn decks? Decks maybe aggro shaman would be included in here. I'm thinking stuff like maybe face hunter as well. How does this deck do into those?
Oh, like Face Hunter, like just absolute smash Face Hunter. Like I don't know how to say it, but like I'm probably like 41 against Face Hunter or something ridiculous. Like I just like never lost to the deck. I basically like you do the same mulligan, like swipe, keep it grow, innervate, wild growth, clear the board early on, you drop a taunt when the game ends. I don't know, man. Like
I've
the Face Hunter just doesn't do anything. They're just like hero power pass, and it doesn't work.
Yeah, I've played a lot of
But
Face Hunter, and this is absolutely the Face Hunter killer deck. It just plays enough taunts that it gets in the way and forces all of these charge minions to trade inefficiently. Druid of the Claw, super annoying for Face Hunter, because their chargers do 3 or 4 damage, not 6. So likely going to 2 for 1 at the very least. And, Ancient of War basically ends the match. We also have 2 copies of Ancient of Lore for healing, 2 copies of Earthen Ring for healing, so pretty much never in danger of losing to Face Hunter.
yeah. I mean, yeah, Face Hunter might actually swear be your best matchup. I don't know what to give a win rate, 'cause I win every time, but maybe it's like an 80-20 matchup, something ridiculous.
Yeah, I think the Face Hunter has to get a very good hand, and you have to stumble pretty badly and not find anything on the first couple of turns there. And even then, you have a lot of options to draw into something that can do fine. Pretty much any one of these minions is a hassle for Face Hunter.
Yeah, but on paper, it can easily win though. They like coin juggler on one. They pray no keeper grow, pray no wrath, and then they just drop minions. They pray no swipe. If they face all the place to win, like they can easily get like a probably 25% plus win rate.
Right.
But if they like don't play to win, then I'm just not gonna win.
Yeah, and like a lot of Face Hunter games, however many I've played, probably several hundred at least. Druid is the only matchup I have that's negative, and it is profoundly negative. So, if you've seen a lot of Druids on the ladder, don't queue Face Hunter. Definitely don't do that. Okay, cool. So we've had a chance to talk about the structure of the deck, some of our resources. We had a chance to talk about matchups and mulligans. It's that time. You ready to play some games and show us how to play this deck?
Yeah, I can.
All right, cool.
You want me to like stream share, or are you gonna spectate?
I'll spectate you. I'll switch over here to the EU server. I assume that's where you're going to be playing.
Yeah.
And we've got our classic Hearthstone Discord's very own Sticky Pickle that's ready to play against you as well. So we've lined up a match. It's a little departure from what we normally do, where we play a couple of games on ladder. This way it's a little bit more consistent. We can choose the matchups that we play. So big thanks to Pickle for look at that, for providing us with some entertainment here.
Yeah. I mean, the scary part if I go to ladder is gonna be like 3 rogues in a row or something.
Yeah.
Not gonna be formative at all. Or like 3 druids in a row.
Yeah.
It's who knows? Maybe 3 subas in a row. Probably not that.
This is one really common thing that we see is, when you queue up on ladder, it's like, an instructive zoo deck or something, and yeah, it's just like, oh, here's control druid or something like that. So, yeah, really appreciate being able to get a little bit more targeted matchups, and also just ensure that the opponent is number one, a real human being, and number two, a skilled player that can provide a good fight here.
Yeah, for sure.
Just a reminder to anybody in the chat, you can always put in questions, any questions that you have for HDA about this Combo Druid deck, any things that have, maybe misconceptions that you think you might have had in the past, or just any kind of questions. Always welcome to put those in the chat. All right, we're in.
So this is a very... This is the most RNG matchup probably in Hearthstone. But we're still gonna like try to like play to like optimally. Right. So again, we're gonna pay attention to Mulligan here. We keep Innervate, Valgrove, Black Knight, like we stated that. And we're gonna pay attention to Mulligan here. And he fully removes. So now we don't need to be afraid of Black Knight, basically.
My greeting.
So the Druid Mirror. Alright, so you got 2 Innervates and nothing to use it with. Are you
Yeah,
hoping to
but,
top deck Ragnaros here?
I mean, we'll see. I don't think I'll play the Ragnaros so far. He does Algrove, how much 7 points?
Oh, there's
2 for
something.
5. It's so bad. Holy hell.
10-5 on turn 2. Is that what we're thinking right here? Please tell me that's what we're thinking.
No, we can't do that.
Please.
No. It doesn't work. It's like I can't clear a sword drop, right? It might not be correct to send this at all, but yeah,
Time waits for no one.
it's really bad to do this road follow up. I need to like draw the rep or some shit. This overall making plays like this is bad. Because what we're doing here is we're giving him a on curve people of the grove, right? And
Right.
what you want to do, Druid Mirror, is you want to make the Druid play off curve, ideally.
Right.
And so basically, don't want to like innovate a Cairne out going to turn 4, give them on curve silence. You don't want to. Basically, you could give them like great swipe value. Like let's say they're on like turn 6. Like if you get the like great swipe value on turn 6, like you're fine with that because you're not spending mana. You can't do anything like 2 remaining mana afterwards.
Right.
Yeah, you probably Black Knight the way you played it. Can't play around it. Could have gone to 10-5, but I'm not doing that.
Right, and I see 2 cards that were kept in hand here. We've seen one of those, I think one of those was Wild Growth. But not seen the Black Knight, so we have a good read on that. Are you
I don't
thinking
like
here,
swiping here.
you don't like
No,
swiping?
we don't swipe. No, definitely not. This is good. Getting this lower HP is good to play around like Bro, Black Knight, everything, but we're not in a position to play around cards really, but I mean this gives me like an equal good board anyway.
Right.
This match comes down to board, like base damage, not necessarily what you want to be doing. Play for board. So he gets a little awkward, he's gonna train my 3-5, how do the 2 damage next turn?
Well, we have Wrath, but that's a little bit slow because we can't develop a minion at the same time. Is there a consideration where you run the Ancient of War into the Ancient of Lore here, or...?
No, I can't do that.
Okay.
We just rough for draw next turn then.
Okay.
I say face damage doesn't matter, but it's just ridiculous to make that trade. Can't do that.
Yeah, having the 1 HP Ancient on the board just doesn't
So
seem that strong.
here, he could play Ragnaros. Generally, he might actually be in a position where he has to play Ragnaros here. But generally, when you draw Wild Growth, you want to play Ragnaros. It's like you already won the game, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like why you risk it? It's actually a great board to have. What the hell? I guess I do double Innervate.
Maybe... well, I imagine swipe... It's gonna if he's targeting your 4/6, I was imagining swipe was gonna come down, but maybe that's the other card here. Okay.
So basically, like the basics of the matchup is like when you're ahead, you play around Black Knight, and when you're behind, you.
It's interesting.
This is really bad for me. Holy hell!
Yeah, double swipe.
And then generally, it's better to like develop minions than like answer with spells as well. I would say. Here I can't develop though.
Right.
It's only one play here.
Yeah, hope for a
Don't need
Senjin.
mana. Yeah, just do this. Don't need the mana.
Yeah, and probably not. You're probably not overly concerned with silencing either in this matchup. There aren't too many minions to silence. There's maybe Cairne, maybe Sylvanas, and I suppose Ancient of War.
It's quite a fucking bet, but I need Tampa.
Yeah.
Like, if you're one turn behind, you lose. Like, if I don't play this, I'm just so ridiculously behind.
Right. Well, we're not quite getting to 9 mana yet, but we are getting I'm pretty close into combo range here, which is always a little bit scary. Are you
Yeah,
considering
but
options with charging Druid of the Claw, swipe, or are we still playing the board game here?
I mean, we'll see. I mean, he still has like every taunt in the deck still. Like, I won't kill him with combo this game. Not gonna happen. But we're still playing the board game, yeah. So the efficient play would be like Claw Growth is another play. I can do shot. Nice. Still comes from player on Black Knight, I wouldn't say.
Where shall I strike?
Now, Cenarius is a card that we didn't talk about too much. What are your thoughts on including that?
No, we're not playing that.
You don't like
what
Cenarius?
matchup? Like, tell me what matchup you want Scenarios again.
Apparently the Druid Mirror, but I don't know. I assume that 9 mana is not exactly the highest
It's
tempo play for 2/2 taunts. If we're playing against like aggro or something like that. But at the same time, if we reach that point, you know, there's a 9-drop that we can play.
okay, yeah, I might look into Mirror.
I don't
Like
personally
21.
play Cenarius, but I was curious if you've ever teched it in there.
I don't even have the card, to be honest. Like, you play against Warrior, Vanity Brawl. You play versus Handlock. I mean, you're dead by turn 9, let's be real.
Right.
Like, kill them. I just don't see the card being. If it was 8 mana, it'd be interesting, but 9 mana is just way too high.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it guaranteed takes up our whole turn unless we have an Innervate with it.
For no one.
And I would assume that if we have an Innervate with Cenarius, we played it on turn 7 to actually get him out anyway.
I must safeguard the land.
If I draw Savage Roar, actually, I just send it. For sure.
Yeah?
I just hope it doesn't kill me.
Yeah.
Instant.
Alright, so second Force of Nature, not like perfectly ideal here
Yeah,
for
I
trading.
mean, I can't win on board anymore. I just rather go for it.
Right.
This face makes sense.
Well, let's see, we got 11 on the board. That's definitely enough for Force of Nature Savage Roar to kill us.
It's like 20, 27, 29, 51, 43. You kill like this shit, 20, 26, 28.
We will survive with 1 HP if we kill Cenarius, and he has Force of Nature Savage Roar with no Innervate.
Nah, let's just set it up, I think. Somehow he just doesn't have burst or doesn't have single taunt we can win.
Somehow. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, the other out is to trade one guy and then set up lethal with yeah, I'm dead then.
Double combo. So, you were right. Having
It's no, like you can beat Walgrove, but I just had like every card in my hand was just dead, right? Like double wrap, swipe, like everything was just dead cards.
Right.
And I had to mess up my curve that Ancient of War.
Right. Cairne and Sunwalker, both pretty important, or, excuse me, Black Knight. Cairne and Black Knight, both some exceptionally important cards in that matchup, and also Ragnaros. I mean, I just imagine the difference there between double innervating out Ancient of War and, like, double innervating out Ragnaros, right? Like, one of them wins the game decisively. One of them very much does not.
I must protect the wild.
Alright, so against Mage, we didn't really talk about this too much. It tends to be a very favored matchup. What do we want to keep?
Right, so we keep Init Valgrove as always. If it's Priest Mage, you can keep Ragnaros on Valgrove, but I'm not sure on that one. I don't play against Priest Mage that much.
Right.
But this guy actually plays Tempo, I'm pretty sure, so I'm gonna keep the rest.
And why is this matchup so good for Druid?
The Druid? The Priest Mage?
Yeah, why is Freeze Mage such a good matchup for Druid?
I mean, you have double silence, so you shouldn't be able to get Doomsayer off. You have a bunch of healing. You just have, like, consistent tempo. I basically, like, the problem with Druid is, like, you're, like, too slow. Like, your minions, like, too costly, and they just, like, people just out-tempo you, but Freeze Mage, you just, like, do nothing, right? So I get to play out all your minions.
Right. We also have a decent amount of healing in the deck, so if it does get down to a point where we get Alexed and we're worried about being, killed next turn, then we do have some options to heal back up.
Oh, this is nuts.
This is not Freeze Mage, is it? Oh, jeez. I've seen this
No.
rather recently. In fact, a match of ours that we played.
Yeah, I did that exact combo too.
Yeah, yeah.
But even there, like going to lower ain't that bad. It's not that bad. But yeah, it's always better.
Yeah, it's a pretty good play. So let's see, you were on 3 mana and you got 7 mana's worth of stuff there.
Okay, as long as it develops and good stuff. But okay, this is really good. But imagine you crossbow ping this or some shit, coin fireball. I actually lose this game.
Hmm.
I just have no tempo at all.
Yeah, it is always a worry. Although,
But
innervating out the Drake does feel kind of good, just because if your hand isn't perfect, it's like, well, I got to innervate out a minion that contests the board, and then also got to, draw a card so that I can correct my hand after that.
that's pushing it.
Oh,
Yeah, but I mean, I drew 2 cards, man. I mean, if I don't get anything playable, it's just not like
right.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
you gotta go for the play.
yeah, sort of something I think that's important to note about this deck is that you're oftentimes you have such big minions that it's just a pain in the ass for your opponent to deal with them, and so in situations like that, sure, you get your Drake cleared and you had a great setup for swipe, but it took so many resources just to kill one minion that it can kind of put you ahead.
Yeah, go fake.
I
Wait, it's actually.
like that.
Oh, maybe. Wait, it's actually not worth it.
Seems like a pretty solid play, just clearing the board with Force of Nature. Worth pointing out, once again, for those who weren't here at the beginning of the stream, we talked about this a little bit, that you don't have to save Force of Nature for your combo. It's a flexible card that can also be used as like a 6 mana Consecrate, or, to deal damage in increments of 2, so not necessarily, not bad at all to use that as removal.
This is a game where like he probably wants Ragnaros. It's like if I draw a big game, might just not want a template. It's like a win can get. Like it needs something ridiculous to get back to this game. Maybe one of them.
Yeah. I mean, even if he manages to clear the 5/5 with a fireball and the 3/3 with a frostbolt, which would have had to been picked up recently, just
yeah. I mean, you can't win the control game.
right.
It's like that doesn't matter. The thing is, like, he might be cringed, right? Like, it could play Black Knight or Big Hunter. Like, they should play any of these cards, but it won't be more likely Big Hunter or Ragnaros. Big Hunter or Big Black Knight. I mean, they have a shit ton of 3-drops, double intellect. Cairne Mage usually they play. I just don't see it fitting a big game that deck.
Yeah, Polymorph is another possibility as well. That answers both Ancient of War and Ragnaros.
Yeah, but it's not gonna win in the game or anything. It just doesn't matter. So yeah, it's like where Azure Drake would be okay. So double Drake
Yeah.
should be Mage anyway. Just play big guy.
You're not
It's
concerned
much
here with the infinite fireballs from Uncle Tony?
I can't kill it, right?
Right.
It's not like kill the images, but it's very inefficient.
Yeah, I mean, the option I was thinking there would be, swipe and clear the other mirror image. Hope for a 50-50 on Rag.
I actually play Black Knight, this guy.
BGH is the card that's going to come down with the rest of the 3 mana here, It's a lot of fireballs in the mage hand.
I can't make the rag 50-50. 1-4, 1-3. Probably develop.
Yeah, if your face weren't frozen, maybe there'd be some possibility of swipe double roar to try and set up lethal, but I think you need the diamond Ragnaros. You can choose which target it attacks at the end of the turn, or so I've heard.
Nah, Ragnaros Stone is usually not that bad.
Huh.
I set up a 2-10 here. Don't kill him. Can I set up a 1-3 lethal here? 4, 6, 8. 1 off. 4,
Yeah.
6, 8. That's 1 off. Trying to silence. Silence, roar. 8, 10, 12. It's not enough mana.
Yeah.
It's 1 off, man.
Yeah. One off the 30% chance.
I concede.
Now, Tempo Mage is a pretty notoriously difficult matchup for Combo Druid in general. They've got a lot of tools to deal with their
No.
stuff.
That's a really good matchup. He just put Black Knight in the deck because he knows he's playing against me. Like he's not winning that game without the Black Knight. He's just not.
I mean, we see, like Mirror Entity and some other rather damning
Yeah.
cards against Druid. Obviously, it doesn't have all of the tools that it needs. That's why it's maybe considered a little bit weaker of a deck. But it definitely has some anti-Druid tools that are annoying.
Nah. I think the matchup's like really good for Druid. I mean, you got Raps to clear all their 2-drops. Grove, like all their 2 HP.
I'll have to get you and Arceus in a match and see whose opinion is correct on that. I've heard.
I mean, sure, but it's very, very rare I lose to Temple Mage. And that came out either running Black Knight.
Yeah, Black Knight a little bit of a unconventional card maybe in that deck. A lot of times we'd see maybe something like Polymorph, a little bit more modest option.
I got Wellgrowth Ancient Lore. It's a great combo.
Yeah, perfect. You were talking about this earlier, that you wouldn't normally keep Ancient Allure here. You got it back from the Mulligan, of course, but yeah, being able to play Wild Growth, being able to curve into Ancient of Lore, just to guarantee we get that card advantage over the Warrior. We don't really care about them, armoring up and playing the control game because we're always going to have minions to play on board. Similar to Control Paladin, their big juicy AoE removal like Brawl or Equality doesn't really work that well against Druid because we just don't put too many minions on the board at a time. We're just playing like 1 minion per turn or something, 1 big minion per turn. That said, they do have options like Shield Block, Shield Slam, things that can remove our minions efficiently if they get a little bit of a tempo lead on us.
If not Keeper of the Grove here, I think you Grove the face, but
And it's worth throwing away the Earthen Ring here for to soak up charge on the weapon.
yeah, why not?
Sure. When else are you going to play it? With a deck that kind of curves out with 1 big minion per turn, the opportunities to play a 3/3 for 3 later on in the game, it's unlikely to be very relevant.
Speak to me.
Well, game's gonna be decided on my extra. It's playable.
I must save.
It's
Yeah.
not great draw.
No, it's not the worst, honestly.
You
Again,
might
part of card advantage is getting to play cards like this. Like, just stop
You
them
could
from
win by
drawing.
You could definitely win by tempo this game though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like a Corcoran would be kind of annoying here.
Armor made to fit.
Maybe going to see a Whirlwind here, I imagine.
Yeah, Yeah, Whirlwind, you probably use it here.
Just
I don't
gain
know.
some armor. Now, you'd mentioned that a lot of control warriors don't really play Black Knight, or don't play any targets for the Black Knight. So, are you ever trying to get value out of that card in this matchup, or are you just trying to trot it out as soon as possible?
No, definitely template.
I wonder.
It's like an even game right now. Shieldstone's the card.
Are you concerned about getting a little too far behind on the board if the Black Knight comes out and gets executed? Maybe a minion gets developed at the same time.
No, you can just shield summit, right?
Right, well, yeah, whatever it is. Shield Slam or, um, you know, pretty much anything.
I mean,
there.
if this is an execute, I'm fucking happy with it. That's like insane card in matchup.
Mhm.
You really don't want to give him shield somebody though, generally, but you swipe here, you shield summon next turn. Yeah, this play loses a double shield slam, but it's pretty long shot. You can still shield summon. Yeah, looks like that's it.
Yeah, maybe a coin Shield Slam. Or maybe not. Kind of an awkward board for us to deal with here, although I suppose, you know, if your Black Knight survives, you're able to bump into the Armor Smith and at least clear something with swipe.
I mean, it has shield slam probably. I don't know why you wouldn't use it here. It's like insane.
Maybe anticipating, you know, if he's weak on removal, anticipating that he needs an answer to one of the ancients.
I mean, they play shield slam. Unless it's fucking bluffs at me. I don't know. I mean, I get fucked by Whirlwind, but I mean...
Yeah, it was an interesting choice there. I think a lot of people would probably bump into the Armor Smith there. Now, you talked a little bit about this earlier, where you were talking about how you'd charge Druid of the Claw into their face if they had enough armor to kill it with Shield Slam, just to remove that armor and remove the value from Shield Slam. Was that the same line of thinking that you were using here when you played, when you attacked face with the Black Knight?
Yeah, it's just shield slam. I think he has shield slam over there. He gets too much tempo wins. Yeah, we got Harrison here. It's good.
Yeah, gotta be kind of happy about that.
He's not spending mana though.
That belongs in a museum.
Yeah, that poor 3 mana left over.
Yeah, I'll probably keep playing with shield slam here.
Yeah, I think this is a good choice. Otherwise, it's just so natural to play Hero Power or Shield Slam on this turn. If you kill the Acolyte, he's got 2 armor, 2 more from Hero Power. Easy Shield Slam.
Yeah, I mean, what sort of does he have? He needs like Cork Guns to make that play. Well, I could just send it. He can't Alex. Hit him at 1. Should kill him next turn. Yeah, I should kill next turn.
Yeah, with the 2 swipes in hand, I don't think so.
He needs like double block. Double block will save him. Whirlwind gives like what, 3 armor. Whirlwind block would be 3 armor, 8, 10. 8, 10. I guess Whirlwind block will save him too.
That'll give him 10 to bring him up to
Yeah,
11. So
him.
I don't think that I think. Oh yeah, yeah. No, you're right. You have to be 2 off with swipe.
I think they split slow and win.
Yeah. Again, about this matchup, I think, is a lot about card advantage. You're up with, you have probably bigger threats in your hand. You have the combo as well, but just kind of getting some of those minions out, playing the minions first, and then following up with the combo, things like that.
Yeah, this is one of those scenarios, like, if I lose this game, then I played bad, right? There was a game-winning play there, but you gotta, like, understand, like, when you need to actually go for game-winning play, when you just win, like, 100%, if that makes sense.
Right.
So I go for face there's a way I lose to, like, double shield block, whirlwind, but I'm pretty sure I could just play around everything and win this game.
Right. It's not like the threat of Force of Nature Savage Roar isn't there this turn as well, right? Like, he has to clear 2 minions and in order to stay alive.
I could RNG brawl it.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be Brawl.
Okay, so yeah, that's one way you can win this game, right? So I guess there was a way you could win like that. It's like, what's more likely? He wins the brawl or him having like double shield block? It's black card, I can't combo, I like cross the card. Innervate kills that.
And,
There's no point to really like go all in on first like charge. That's why not to lose to Alex. I just gel. You can tap a big if you want.
you want to send a tempo BGH here going into turn 9 against a warrior?
Okay, he can't Alex, he can't. I guess he could RNG Rag, kill my minion. Nah, probably not. Hey, you can do it sometimes, yeah. It's like pretty rare. He just doesn't have time to play Samur attack minion, right? Because there's just so much time about.
Yeah.
But if I play big game, he will just big game RNG Rags it, minion, and that. Do stuff.
Well, we got him at the magic number. He's got 5 armor right now, but it seems like we're getting pretty close to running the warrior out of cards.
He's killing me too.
Right.
He wants Black Knight. Guy loves Black Knight. It's not obvious. None of these cards like obvious Black Knight. The shots with Black Knight is actually like 60% here. Play Black Knight. After the the game, probably.
Are you considering here just remove if possible, and just have more cards? Something like swipe Druid of the Claw here, charge Druid of the Claw to clear.
No, can't do that. It's not a game to play. Huge Azure Drake. I probably got some.
If we're expecting Black Knight, Sunwalker seems dangerous.
I don't know, man. I just had to fucking grow up otherwise, man. It's the difference. Nah, but how did I lose this? I don't understand.
Yeah, I guess. Well, we're not out of the woods yet, but yeah, an early board from the warrior.
Even lost the brawl as well.
None
I got to 10.
Yeah, that's a tough amount of health to be at. Do you have... Well... I suppose we don't have any lethal options next turn, even if we draw Innervate. Are you going to use combo to clear?
No, I don't think so. With that to Parkon, with that to Roms, 2 outs. Combo clear here? No, we don't win that.
I wonder.
I'll probably die. I made also read earlier that didn't shield block. I didn't have Reed, I didn't have Shieldblock though. You could just Rag here too. I guess
Yeah,
Rag wins the game.
Rag, Grom. Seems like either one of those. I suppose we haven't seen a Whirlwind yet, so it's likely that Grom could be activated even in the event that we chose a different line there. Alright, I think we got time for one more, if you and Pickle are up to it.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, cool. Now, if I recall, this was going to be aggro Shaman. Is that right?
I must protect the wild.
Yeah, should be.
Okay.
A Black Knight in deck.
So we're looking for Wild Growth, Wrath, and maybe if we have Wild Growth, Senjin.
No, I think we'll get all aggro, so like Wild Grove, Innervate, Ragnaros the Firelord. It's like those 5 cards. Swipe, Tiger Shaman, I could try it. It's like a worse matchup for Swipe, like all aggro decks do probably, but
Greetings, friend.
still good enough, I think.
Innervate Keeper or Innervate Drake, always pretty decent. Like Innervate Drake into Spell Power Swipe if our Drake sticks. Although I wouldn't expect many of our minions to stick in this matchup, just given the numerous removal options that the Shaman has for cheap, like Lightning Bolt and Rock Biter.
There is little time.
Feeling pretty confident with that Innervated Keeper here.
So if you could do it turn 4, you take what? You take 3. Take way too much damage, yeah. I guess, yeah. Fucks up my curve though, but
It does, it does. We definitely prefer to Innervate out the Drake and follow up with the Keeper. This gives us a dead turn 3, but it does give us a Keeper on the board early on with 4 health and no spell power available right now to the Shaman. It's a little awkward to deal with.
Mind if I roll need?
Job's done.
Alright, fortunate enough to get this Senjin in hand, which is, yeah, it's going to be handy against these wolves. Swipe also not too bad here against the wolves.
yeah, I like Swipe. Seems like insane, right?
Yeah, it takes advantage of this 2-attack minion we have on the board. I like it too. I think my worry with Senjin there would be that one of those wolves plus a Rock Biter is going to be able to clear it.
Yeah, you could like Rock Butter. You're both mana though, but yeah.
And I guess once again, seeing the power of Keeper of the Grove here, it kills Fairy Dragon when it comes into play. It trades into a Feral Spirit, and then trades into a second Fairy Dragon, a 3-for-1 card. Not a huge surprise that it got nerfed to a 2-2 by Blizzard at some point. Now, with Earthshock in mind, are you ever tempted here to play Senjin Hero Power, or are you just thinking curve, 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 play Sunwalker?
Sunwalker doesn't really do anything here. It's either Senjin Hero or Senjin Growth. Probably Senjin Growth.
And what is the purpose of Wild Growth in this particular situation? Because it seems like our Hero Power can remove that, Loot Hoarder, or maybe pop the bubble on the Argent Squire. We're probably going to play, I'm guessing, Ancient of Lore next turn anyway. Do we want to essentially be playing Wild Growth so that we can play like Sunwalker Hero Power next turn, or?
Yeah, like some here per solid. I mean, should have known for sure. Shade's okay. Should play Flame Tongue that day. I guess Flame Tongue, this Shade would take me better. To get up or I think Shade's better than Flame Tongue, I'm not sure.
Yeah, with the Argent Squire in the middle, it seems like taking out the healing totem is probably good against Flame Tongue. Ooh, Rockbiter would be a little bit scary here. Pretty big tempo swing on the board.
Yeah, but even then, look like Sunwalker for next turn, so I still like the growth up there.
Yeah.
This guy played freaking Hex to counter me.
Hitting aggro Shaman?
Yeah, I mean, he's probably gonna do it, so.
Truth is my
No, it's just gonna be the Black Knight.
I could draw for Harrison, but it doesn't really make sense because I think I'm winning right now. So it's just...
Yeah, long term we've got extra card draw here with Lore. We've got another card that we can pick up with Wild Growth, so we're cycling or drawing 3 cards with these 2 in hand. Might be able to stay ahead in card advantage here for just long enough to hold on. Now, mid-range Shaman is a tough matchup for Combo Druid. Aggro Shaman, I think, might be a little bit better for the Druid than just the regular mid-range, because they usually aren't running hexes. Earthshock isn't that effective against us. It does stop our taunt minions from taunting, but it doesn't do a bunch of damage to them. Do you ever consider sending the combo here in order to clear the board?
Just the next turn if I do it right. We can like burst this shit, but
What to do?
I'm not comboing this. No way, then.
So, with the choice there to heal on face, can you explain that a little bit? Because we're at 23. Now, Aggro Shaman has a ton of burn. What specifically were you afraid of? And did you feel like digging for the Harrison had some viability, or was it just more important to stay healed and stay healthy?
No, if I wanted to dig Ferris, I would do it like 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm pretty sure I think I have like what I need to win here. Like the combo is gonna happen this turn. The question is just the one to combo last turn or this turn. And I think it makes more sense coming this turn.
Yeah, having one more minion at least on the board guaranteed to give us a target is probably good. Otherwise, we're just hitting face for 4 with one of those treants.
Yeah, but assuming it's burst, you take another 4. Really worth it, yeah.
Little time.
I think we're 1 off lethal if we draw Innervate.
I really just don't need combo here. It just doesn't do anything really.
We do find the Innervate.
Shall I strike?
Is there ever any situation where we're hoping to heal up our 5/5, or are we past that point in the game where that would matter?
My hand is actually really bad. It's possible I can lose by board. But if I lose to board to aggro shaman, I don't even know what's going on anymore. Like, I don't know why we'd have to like consider that in the slightest. Like I'm playing druids, so like I should not have to like consider losing board with aggro deck. Like,
Speaking of board, this is a little bit scary here.
I mean, you can't fail this weapon, right?
Right. Yeah, and your minions are kind of awkwardly at 3 HP here as well. So kind of hard to remove with the Doomhammer efficiently.
Yeah.
Alright, gonna opt to remove your Ancient as well here. So it looks like he's doing a good job of playing around your combo. That's sort of the only thing we have in hand right now.
I think it's dead, right? It is with web face, 12, 15, 17, yeah.
Yeah, Innervate there, coming in clutch. So actually fairly close here with mid-range Shaman, or with excuse me, with aggro Shaman.
Was it that close? I don't know. I did try Harrison, I did try the Rafts.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I messed up my curve. I mean, sure, I did the init grove, which is disgusting, but.
Well, I appreciate that we got to see a few different matchups there. It's always, a lot more informative. I think that was a definite improvement on just playing random ladder games. And, once again, thanks to Sticky Pickle for being our punching bag here for the show. Okay, so we've been at it for a couple hours here. I really appreciate you taking all the time to explain all these things to us. As we're sort of wrapping up, I'm curious, for those folks who might have questions about Combo Druid or maybe just competitive questions in general, how do people get in touch with you? What's the best way for them to ask you questions or say thanks to you for teaching them how to play this deck?
I mean, you can DM me on the Discord.
Cool. Now, you also tend to stream fairly regularly in that Discord server as well, so that folks can watch you, kind of ask you questions in real time and observe your games. So the link to our Discord, that invite is in the description here to the video. It'll also be in our Twitch profile as well. So for those of you at home that are interested in joining the community, getting to know players like HDA, watching them in real time, watching them stream, that's probably your best option there. Otherwise, I want to say I learned a lot here. Definitely some misconceptions of mine that I had corrected about this deck, so I appreciate getting to learn more about how to play Combo Druid and maybe some of the choices of what to tech in. So HDA, thanks a lot. I really appreciate you coming on the show. It was very informative. Are there any last minute thoughts that you want to have? Any shout outs that you want to bring out there for any of the folks in the audience?
I mean, shout out to Sticky Pickle for playing games with me, but like, come on, why did you put Black Knight in every deck? Like, Black Knight and Tempo Mage? Like, hello? Like, that's not even a thing.
It is an unconventional choice, maybe to say the least. Yeah, you're gonna have a little talk with him after we're off the air. I think that's in order. But otherwise, yeah, I wanted to say thanks again. Really appreciate you sharing all this knowledge. For those of you who are interested in seeing and hearing more HDA, he'll be joining us as a guest commentator for our next EU tournament that's coming up in a few weeks here on the 25th of February. So stay tuned for that. We'll have some enjoyable live commentary there, bringing that expert opinion, so that scrubs like me don't get to steal the show with bad analysis. So, on behalf of myself and the Classic Hearthstone Discord team who helps produce these videos, I want to thank everybody who tuned in today. Those who are watching on YouTube, always feel free to reach out to us in Discord. Say hi, join the community, ask questions, get some answers. That's what we're all about. Otherwise, we're going to sign off. So, HDA, once again, thanks for coming on. We'll see you soon.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm looking forward to the next tournament.
Awesome.